Hey everyone, it's Selena here. Okay, so I did the when to use, slice, hide, contour, weld, flatten, all of those, and I forgot to broadcast my Google Hangouts. So it did not record and it didn't post to YouTube. So here I am doing the class all over again. But you know what? It's better because things that I run into that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said this or done that. So I normally don't edit my videos, so even though I'm redoing it, I may still have some hiccups every now and again, but I like it that way because whenever I run into an issue, it's better for you guys to see it too, so that you know, okay, I know not to do that, or I know to do this. So like I said, this is going to be going over when to use the slice tool, the weld tool, unflatten and flatten, attach, and contour. So I went ahead and inserted some images and some text lines, and some of the majority of the images that I'm using are from Design Space. The only one that is not from Design Space is this one here, which is the Batman logo. But I did want to I duplicated them just so that I can show you each example for each shape or image so that you can see the difference on what each tool does. So let's get started with, I'm going to start in order here. It's kind of hard for you to see, but at the top of your layers panel, it has slice, weld, unflatten or flatten, attach, and contour. So let's just start with the very first tool, which is the slice tool. So with the slice tool, just think of it as a cookie cutter. What you're doing is you're taking two images. Both images need to have one layer. And what you're doing is you're using a layer to cut through another layer. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to slice this heart. Now, this particular image has two layers. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, here it is here. It has two layers here, and they are still grouped together. Now, my example, I wanted to show you how to slice the orange through the yellow one, so that we're only left with this really thin border here. As you can see, my image is selected and my slice tool is highlighted. It's available. So I don't necessarily need to ungroup this for my slice to work. Let's do that again. I'm gonna ungroup it. See, had I not noticed that the slice was available before I ungrouped it, I would have exactly did what I just did right now. I would have right-clicked and ungrouped it and then selected the two to slice. But I don't need to do that because I'm using, this is one layer and then the yellow one is one layer, and I was just using the orange to slice through the yellow, and it would have worked if I didn't ungroup it. Now I'm going to undo it so that it goes back to being grouped. You can see it's available. I'm going to click on slice. And now you can see that I just have this border here, and I can discard this if I wanted to. I'm going to ungroup that, or excuse me, undo that step. And I'm going to show you that if I wanted to slice through this square. Okay, let's say I want to slice this heart through this pink square. Because I have two layers here and they are grouped together, it's not going to work. So I have my heart selected. I'm going to hold my shift key down and select the pink square. As you can see, it's not available. And that's because I'm trying to slice with an image that has two layers, and that's not going to work. So I need to ungroup it and either use this one or the yellow one. We'll use the yellow one in this example. I'm going to hold the shift key down and select my pink square. Now you can see that the slice tool is now available. So I went ahead and sliced through that. Now I can move that out of the way. So just remember, the slice tool is like a cookie cutter. You need to slice your cookie cutter per se layer is one layer, and then the cookie dough or the other image that you're using to slice through is one layer. Okay, so let's get rid of these so that I don't have so much going on in my screen. All right, so that's the slice. We're going to do another slice, but we're going to slice with text. So let's say I wanted this text to slice through this square. My text is one layer. The particular font that I'm using doesn't have a shadow layer. It's just one layer. So it's going to slice just fine. If I did have another layer grouped to this, as long as I had it hidden, it would still work. So you don't necessarily have to go out there, unhide it, and then delete it, as long as it's hidden. Okay, so I'm going to click on the text and also click on my square and click on slice. And now you can see that the text has sliced through this. Okay. Let's get that over here. All right, well, let's use this heart again for our slice example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup this, and I'm only going to use one layer. And what I want to do is I want to slice through this heart because I want to make a split heart. And I do have a video on this that only covers how to split images, and it's on my YouTube page, or you can find it on my blog. And I'll be sure to link that video here because it goes over how to slice different images to create a split image. So in this example, I'm just using a rectangle or this long shape to slice through this heart. So I have the two selected. I'm going to click on slice. Okay, so I'm going to delete this piece here, and I'm going to delete this piece here. So I can leave it just as is if I wanted to put some text right there in the middle. Or, let's move this text out of the way. I can go ahead and finish this off and kind of create a border like the way you see most of the split images, like that. And I'm going to duplicate that one, put it down here below, make sure those are lined up. And I'm selecting all three images, and I'm going to choose Weld. You see this is a little bit off, so let's just scoot that over. Okay, select all three images and click on Weld. Okay, that's how to do that. Now let's say that gap in between here is a little bit too narrow. I want it a little bit bigger. Well, this is all one piece. So in order for me to break this apart, I'm going to cut this or slice this heart in half. I'm just using a square shape, or just any type of shape that's going to cover the bottom or the top portion of this image. And I'm going to select the two, and I'm going to slice it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this one here. And now I can move it. I can make it a little bit wider if I wanted to. Then I can move my text over here. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's had a couple of steps in there. I actually, included Weld, but that's a pretty good example to be using Weld and slice together. So let's go ahead and move this over here. All right, so hopefully that kind of helped you on using slice. The next one is Weld. So that was one example on how to weld, which I welded these two pieces here These long pieces here, I welded them to the heart. Let's use this example. Okay, I like the look of these little hearts here, but I want to add a couple of other hearts, maybe on this side. So I'm just going to take another heart. Let's ungroup this. You don't have to ungroup it, because with the weld, you can have however many layers that you want to weld together. So let's say I duplicated this, 20 times. I can highlight all those 20 hearts and click on weld, and it's going to work just fine. But in this case, if I welded all of this together, all of these together, you're going to see that this orange heart is just going to melt inside that yellow heart. The same thing with this pink heart. The lighter pink is just going to pretty much disappear because it's just merging everything together. So let's go ahead and click on weld. And you can see that it's all welded together. Okay, let's move that aside. Let's use a text as an example to weld letters together. Let's say I wanted this to cut out all as one. Of course, each word is going to be separated, but I at least want the O and the H attached, the happy attached, and the day attached. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my edit panel, and I'm going to click on the down arrow of letter spacing. And this is just going to be, I'm just going to keep clicking until I'm happy with the placement of my letters. Just trying to scoot everything together so that all the letters are touching. Now, as you can see, pretty much everything is touching except this Y. Everything is good here, everything is good here, but that Y is still not touching this P. I can squeeze it some more, but these just tend to overlap, and it's just not the look that I'm going for. So I would actually ungroup it and then move the Y over a little bit. But I always like to point out that when you ungroup your text, it changes from a text to an object. So if you later decide to change the font, unfortunately you can't, because it's no longer text. You just have to insert a new text line and change your font. So by me ungrouping this, I've now changed my image, and I won't be able to edit it. All right, so I want them just like that. I'm going to highlight all of the words, and I'm going to click on weld. All right, now they're all connected. Now I don't have to piece every little letter, one after another. It's just 3 separate words. Same thing with a font that is more cursive or a scripty font. In Design Space, when you use a scripty font, you'll notice, or any type of font, you're going to have some spacing in between each letter. So I want all of this to flow together. So I'm going to go ahead and start clicking on this down arrow on the letter spacing. Try to get them close together. And I can already tell that most of them are touching except for this A and this P here. If I keep going, you're going to see that this D and probably some other letters over here are going to start cross or overlapping, and that's not really the look I'm going for. So let's just ungroup it. I'm going to scoop over each letter like that. I think everything else is good except for this one here. All right. Highlight all the words and click on weld. Now those are all welded together. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger because this is a very thin font and it's very hard to tell. And now you can see that everything is connecting. This is a really good font for using the writing feature. It's a very thin font, so it's pretty good for it's like a writing style. But this is a font that I downloaded from dafont.com, and it is called KG Only Human. If you wanted to go on dafont.com, it's a free font. All right, so that's how to weld text. All right, so I'm going to just move these over to the side. All right, let's move on to flatten. So what flatten is it's just taking pretty much any image that you either upload from Google or any other website using the upload image tool here over to the left, or any image that's in Design Space. And you're taking all the layers and it's flattening into one layer, and it's going to print, and then it'll cut just around the outside of the image. So this, in this example here, let's move this down. In this example here, I want to print this frog, but I do have some changes that I want to make. I want to change the heart to be a different color, and what else? I want to add some little jewels on her crown. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change, let's try to find that frog. When you have a lot of layers going on, which I have a ton going on in here, sometimes I will scroll up and down trying to look for the dang layer and I can't find it. What you can do is just whatever image that you're working on, just go up to the arrange up here at the top and just move that image all the way to the front. See how it says move to front? Once you move it to the front, then it moves your layers all the way to the front. So it's going to be at the top of your layers panel. So there are all my layers here. And as you can see, I have one other layer that is hidden, which is that back layer, or the shadow. So I'm going to keep that hidden for now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup this and let's trying to think here, because I'm actually gonna be moving into the contour or the hide contour for this example. So as you can see, this layer here has the cheeks and the heart. I only want to change the color of the heart, but how can I if it's one layer? If I come up here and change it to purple, it's going to change my little pink cheeks to purple. That's not what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. I need one for the heart, I need one for the cheeks. So let's start with one. I'm going to click on it, I'm going to click on contour. And what it does, it shows you the three little pieces that you can hide. So in this example, I want to hide the cheeks because I need the heart separated from the cheeks. So let's click on these two dots here. It's very hard to tell, but there's an aqua line around it. And you can see that as I hover over it, it changes colors when you're going to select it. So those two are selected, so I'm going to double click outside of that. And there's my heart. So now I can change this heart to purple. All right, this one here, I don't need this heart, I just need the cheeks. So we're going to do the same thing. Click on contour, and I'm going to click on the heart, double click outside of the image, and there are my cheeks. All right, so my goal here is to print this little frog. But as you can see on this green layer, there's little outlines, little cut marks. Those are just really guides so that you know where to place the cheeks and where to place the heart. Well, I don't need those because I'm not piecing them together. I'm going to print this. If I'm a little off on my placement, it's gonna print that little black line. Same thing for here, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna purposely put it off center so that you can see. I'm gonna select all the layers and I'm gonna choose flatten. Oh, I'm lying. Those little lines went away. That's perfect. You know what? This whole time I thought that I had to hide contour. So, see what I mean? Now you can see my mistake. I saved you a step here. What I was going to show you was I was going to choose the frog, click on contour, and I was going to click on every little line right here. And it's not very easy to select it. Trust me, it takes a little while to get those little lines. Okay, so let's escape out of that. And now I know that I didn't have to do that. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to place our cheeks where they need to be and the heart where they need to be, where it needs to be. Oh, what did I say? I wanted to add some jewels, right? Let's just add this tiny little heart to the top of her crown. I'm going to move it to the front. Let's put it right here. All right, so I'm going to select all of these, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. All of these are going to combine into one, and you're going to see the little printer icon as soon as I click flatten. Okay, there's my layer. It's going to print and then cut around the frog. Oh, it's so cute. All right, now if I print this frog just the way it is, what it's going to do, when you go to your print screen, your print is automatically defaulted to bleed, and that bleed, it adds just a little bit more ink around the edges so that when the Explorer cuts your image, there are no white edges, which is great. But there's sometimes that I want to have that white border around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this frog, and I'm going to show you the difference between having an image with the bleed and having an image without the bleed, or with a white back layer, or a little border around it. So I'm going to unhide that shadow back here. I'm going to change it to white. And what you can do is you can either cut this out in like a white cardstock and print this and then place it on top if you want to layer that. Or in my example, I just want to print it all, and I want it to print with the white border. So I'm going to click the two of those and I'm going to flatten them. Now you can see that this white border will print around that frog. So let's click on go. It's going to take a little while because I have quite a bit going on my mat. I do have some other, no, I think those are the only images. No, I do have another image that's going to print. All right, here we go. So there we go. So this first one here, it's very hard to see, but this is the one that has the white border around it. So you can see that my image is very clean. There's no bleed around it. There's actually, well, as you know, white does not print. So there's really not a bleed on the white. But on the second mat, I'm going to switch back and forth so you can see the difference. See how that second frog is blurry? Also, this Batman logo, it's blurry. And that's the reason for the bleed, because when it cuts around these images, there's not going to be any white edges. It's going to be very clean cut. Now, let's go up to settings and uncheck that. You're going to see it cleans up, looks perfect. See how it looks normal? But it tells you right here, we recommend you to keep the bleed on for optimal print and cut. I never unclick it. I always have it clicked. So, let's click OK, and we can get out of this. Just wanted to show you the difference between the two if I had a white border versus a non-white border. All right, so let's move that over to the side. I still have some more to go over on flatten because I had seen some questions on Facebook, on the Cricut Design Space Facebook page. Someone was trying to print an invitation and it just wasn't working out. And I'm going to show you the reason. All right, so I have all these layers. All of these layers are currently set to just cut. So I have Elsa. I have all these layers. This has several layers. There's Elsa's. There's the snowflake, and then the frozen has several layers. But I want all of this to print on top of this shape because I want it to be an invitation. If I go to each image and flatten each one individually, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like when I click on go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it so that I don't have to go back and do it again. I'm going to show you the difference between the two. All right, for this example, I'm gonna flatten everything separately. I'll flatten that one, that one, okay, I'm even gonna flatten the shape. Send this to the back. The reason why it looked like all my images here had disappeared was because anytime you do a command on a certain layer, it's always going to bring it to the very front. So this shape here was the last one that I set a command to, which was to flatten it, so it brought it to the front. So all I did was I just sent it to the back, so now we could see these again. All right, so I flattened these separately. So you can see Frozen will print, Elsa will print, Snowflake will print, okay? Now on this one, I'm going to select it all, just dragging a box around them, and then I'm going to click on Flatten. Okay, now this is all flattened together. As you can see, well, it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see that all of these layers are combined into one. So when I click on go, let's get rid of just going to get rid of these frogs so that I just hit that one. Okay, so I just want to see these two pull up when I click on go. Give it a little moment. It's just pulling up the layers that I was trying to print earlier. But it'll refresh here shortly. All right. So because the image that I'm using to print on top of is white, it's kind of hard to see the shape of it, but you can see that the grid lines stop. You don't see them going all the way through, so you know there's a shape there. So what this is going to do is going to print, and then it's going to cut around this shape. That was the second example that I had showed you. This here, you're invited, and then the next one, there's a shape, there's a snowflake, there's Frozen, and then there's Elsa. So you can see that that's very blurry. And why is that? Because on my settings, I have the bleed set. But because this is not flattened on top of something, what the software is thinking is that you want to print this out and you want it to cut around each letter. That's the reason for the bleed, because remember, it wants it to cut a clean cut around everything. But in this example, you don't want every single letter to cut. That's not what I wanted. I wanted it to print on top of this shade. Same thing for this one. It's going to print this snowflake and cut around the snowflake. It's going to print the Frozen title, cut around that, and it's going to print around Elsa and cut around her. So that's the example I wanted to show you, is although everything was flattened, it wasn't flattened together like this example was. So it has nowhere to print on top of, so it prints by itself and then wants to cut around every single letter or every single shape. Okay, so hopefully that made some sense to you. Let's move that over there. Oh, you know what? Let's go back and undo some steps, because I had deleted my Batman logo, which I needed to use as an example. All right. All right, so now the next steps I'm going to use are, I'm going to stay with flatten, but I'm also going to use attach. So for this example, I wanted to show you that I was going to do a tent card. And I wanted to attach a score line so that it folds in half. Let's bring my score line to the front. All right, so here I can't really tell if my score line is centered. So what I'm going to do, straighten this out a little bit. What I'm going to do is put my score line where I think it needs to go, and then I'm going to click on the actual shape. And when you click on the shape, you can see that there's the little crosshairs here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my shape to the middle of where the score line is. Okay, so that's centered. So I'm going to drag a box around the two. And that's easiest to me. You can also select your score line, hold the shift or the control key down, and then select your image that you will need to score. And I'm going to click on attach. Okay, so now these are attached. I'm going to bring this to the front. Let's change this to black. All right, so what I want to do is I want this Batman logo to print out, but I want the bat juice, move that to the front, to print on top of the logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to yellow. Okay, size that down, place it where I think it looks good, and then I'm going to select the two and I'm going to flatten them. All right, so now bat juice will print. This is now printing as one, and then it'll cut around here. So I can have that cut, and I can just place that on top and glue that on top, and there's my tent card. It's scored right in the middle. Okay, that's using attach by using the score line. Now, if let's say I want to attach, let's change this to white so we can see what we're doing. Let's say I want to attach some text. Let's move this to the front. I want this to write on top of this tent card. And I want this to say cupcakes. Okay, I want it to write, but right now my layer is selected to cut. So what I need to do is click on the layer and click on write. I'm just going to change the color so that we can see. All right, so that's going to write with a Cricut pen or marker, whatever you choose. Okay, but in order for this to write on my text, or excuse my tent card, I need to select the text and also select the tent card and click attach. Okay, now when we click on go, I'm going to have to delete all of this. I'm going to change this tent card to black because, and I'm going to change the writing. Uh-oh. Now I'm going to have to change every single letter. It's okay. Usually when I want something to, if I have a lot of layers going on, and let's say I needed to recut something, I change it to black because black will always cut first. But in this case, I don't have that much going on. So let's just click on go. Let's make sure that it's attached. Okay. Click on go. And let's just go to the very last mat because the white is always the last mat. And now you can see that this is going to cut. And you can see right here, it's going to cut. It actually goes this way from the left to the, excuse me, from the right to the left. So it's going to write first. And Design Space will let you know, when to insert your pen, when to insert your score tool. And then it's going to score, and then it'll cut. Okay. So there's that. And then another example I wanted to give you is sometimes there are some issues with the slice feature. Sometimes you're trying to slice something and it's just not working. I've noticed that some images or some shapes just don't want to slice. Sometimes I have to insert several different circles or several different squares and try each one to see which one's going to slice, which one's going to work for me. Let's say in this example that I want to cut this heart out of this heart. And let's just say that my slice tool is just not working. Instead of using slice, I can click the two and click attach. And this heart will cut out of this heart. So you can use the attach tool for certain things like cutting out like that. Now, if I was trying to slice, let's undo that. Say I wanted to split this. I'm going to insert a rectangle. again, let's say slice wasn't working and I need to split that. You can go ahead and attach it. It's gonna cut and remove that. But it's just nice to use the slice feature so that, because in this example when I attached it, it's attached. I can't separate the two, but you can see the cut lines right there. But it is nice to see, or for you to be able to move things out of the way and, you know, place other things in its place, like this. You can remove that, and oops, wrong one, and remove this. That way I can place this here. Let's say that I wanted Oh Happy Day to be the same color. I'm going to go over to my sync panel and sync some colors. Let's see. Okay, so I want this to be the same color as the heart. All right. Okay, so everything looks good, right? Let's say I wanted to cut this in vinyl, and I'm just using one color. If I click on Go, this is going to cut somewhere else from this. But I want this all to cut just the way it looks here. How do I do that? I need to select everything. Well, let's duplicate this, and I'll give you the two examples so you can see the two. All right, so let's move this over here. Let's get rid of all of this. Okay, so the first example I'm going to leave just the way it is. The second example, I'm going to highlight it all, and I'm going to click Attach. Now let's click on Go. And as you can see, this is separated. That means I'm going to have to cut this out, place it over here, line it up. Here's my second example. Everything is just the way it needs to be. And that was by using Attach. All right, I hope that helps you on slice, weld, flatten, attach or detach, and contour, hide contour. You know what, I wanted to give one more example on the hide contour, which was using my little frog. Let's undo all of this so I can bring that little frog back. There it is. All right, I wanted to use hide contour as an example for layering vinyl. I'm going to ungroup this. Actually, let's group it back together. I'm going to duplicate it so that I can have a couple more pieces to work with. All right, so I'm going to ungroup this. And what I want to do is I want to layer all of these pieces with vinyl. But as you can see, when I move this out of the way, I have this big old black piece here. I don't want to waste that much black vinyl just for the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to show you how to do that without having to waste all that vinyl. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to use hide contour. And in the earlier example that I showed you about using hide contour before flattening, that was perfect. Once I flattened it, these little cut lines went away. In this example, I do have to hide the little cut lines because I'm not printing this, I'm cutting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, or you can come over to your layers panel and click this contour, but I usually right click. Click on hide contour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of everything except the little eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to click on the main the body. And I do have to click, like I said, on these little cut lines. So, like I said, this kind of takes a little time to get right over that little line. So I got that one. Oops. Just make sure you're getting the right areas. Alright, so I have everything selected except the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to double click outside of that image. Alright, so here are my eyes and my mouth, and I'm going to change it to black. And I'm just going to get rid of this one, because now all I have to do is change this to green. But I still have these little cut lines here. So I need to do the same thing with this one, hide contour, and then just hide these little lines here. Double click outside of it, and those are gone. Alright, so there's my eyes and my mouth. Okay, then there's that. Alright, so this was kind of a bad example, but I wanted to show you that sometimes when I layer vinyl, I don't really like to see the creases when you layer vinyl on top of each other. So let's say that this crown of hers is supposed to be like right around here. Well, you can see that there's this piece here, the top of her head. If I put that crown down here, you're going to see that little crease or that line of the green vinyl kind of showing like a bump. So in order to avoid that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the crown, put it to the side. I'm going to take the crown and I'm going to select, also I'm holding the shift key or the control key, and I'm going to select the frog and click on slice. Everything's going to move to the back, but I'll move those back up front. Alright, so there's that piece that I'm going to get rid of, and that piece I'm going to get rid of. Okay, I'm going to move this to the back. And now when I cut this vinyl out, I'm just going to put it right there, right up above until it meets. And now I won't have that seam or that little bump there. I think that was the only example I wanted to show you in case you're layering and you want to try and avoid that. I can go into, I would probably actually have to do another video on layering vinyl without trying to, we're trying to avoid those bumps. So I'll look into that, because there's a whole bunch of other things that are a little bit more complicated when doing that. That was an easy example to show you on that. So, okay, I think I'm done now. But if you have any questions, if I kind of confuse you on anything, please reach out to me via Facebook, on my blog. Put a comment down below, and let me know what you have questions on. I know that was covering quite a lot, but hopefully I gave you some good examples to work off of. I think that's it. So, like I said, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.